Today's episode is the last one of Season 1. The grand finale is here, and oh my, do we have a treat for you. If you've listened to previous episodes, then you know we typically focus on one or two topics, but today we are going rapid fire. And I hope you're ready to pay attention as we discuss a number of different things you didn't realize were a big deal, but you will soon be convinced that you need to be bothered by all of these things. So soak it all in, because we're finishing this season in style with our 10th episode. Sit back and relax, drop the small talk, and let's do this.
Sitting on top of the world, I don't know if you heard. I'm living it up, yeah, I ain't gonna stop, and I can't hear a word. Good vibes up in the air, and I got plenty to share. So come pick it up, there's tons to be got, and I'm spreading it everywhere. So go a little up and let it run up. Telling your friends it's time to let the good times roll.
This is the Useless Thoughts Podcast, a place where no thought is too random and no topic is too pointless. Let's have some real conversation. As we said earlier, this is our 10th and final episode of Season 1. Thanks for listening. Alright, let's have a conversation about home printers. I'll go first. Why are they so terrible? The wireless connection is never working right the first time, and then when it finally starts to connect, the sound of the printer wakes up everybody in the house. Before the first paper even slides into the back to begin printing, it has to cycle through the lengthy progression of terrifying sounds, which is not unlike the sound that 63 old people make when they bend down to pick up something and then have to stand back up again. And just when we thought we had eliminated all the annoyances of dial-up internet, where we waited 12 minutes for the internet to boot up while listening to that awful dial-up noise of two cats fighting, we've now landed in a time where we have to have that same sound be passed from the printer now instead. The proverbial torch has been passed and we're back to square one. And if the noise isn't enough, it takes 30 minutes for the page to finally print, to the point where you started to weigh the pros and cons for if you actually need the printout or not, even wondering if it would be quicker to just handwrite the page you're trying to print instead. I didn't even bother mentioning how quickly ink runs out. You might think that ink is only used when you actually print something, so it will last a certain number of pages no matter how long it takes, but you are incorrect in thinking that. The ink actually seems to just sip out non-stop the second that you put it in the printer, so while you may have only printed out 2 pages in the past year, you better believe that you're already out of ink. Let's talk about another talk. Let's talk about the good old days. First, stop saying the good old days. They were probably just as fine as the current days, and your memory is just wrong. Or maybe they were the good old days because you were younger when they were happening, and you preferred being young to being old. So with that out of the way, let's talk about something that was better in the good old days. Times were a lot better when we weren't able to Google the answer to resolve an argument or discussion. Some things are meant to be a knockdown, drag-out discussion that never gets resolved. Why kill a great, opinionated discussion by whipping out Google and ending the conversation in 30 seconds? Oh great, now the discussion is already over and we're just supposed to sit around and talk about the weather now? Fantastic. I loved the time prior to everyone having access to Google in their pocket, when opinions could be as wrong as ever, but with zero proof to confirm that you were actually wrong. What a great time of ignorance, and I wish we could bring it back. What's something else we can discuss? How about the best candy that you never actually buy? Halloween just ended, so candy was a big deal in the world for a little while. Obviously, everyone has their opinions about what the best candy is, but the beauty of Halloween is that you finally get to eat types of candy that you never actually buy for yourself. It's similar to when you go out to eat and you get the same thing that you always get, because you know it's going to be good and you're scared to branch out in case your new item is not as good. Similarly, we have our candies that we like, but we never actually purchase them when we stop at a gas station because we trust our old faithfuls. You have Reese's Cups, which are obviously the GOAT, but then people may go for Snickers, Milky Way, Three Musketeers, or maybe even a Twix if you're feeling frisky. But let me tell you which candy is the GOAT among the candies that no one actually buys, but come Halloween time, we chow down on it. That candy is Kit Kat. Without a doubt, it is the number one ranked candy out of candies that you only eat fun size instead of regular size. I mean, really, when's the last time you had a non-fun size Kit Kat? The reason it doesn't register in your memory is because it never actually happened. But all of you that eat candy know exactly what I'm talking about. Kit Kat is the greatest candy that we never actually buy for ourselves. Other acceptable answers would have included Crunch, Fun Dip, and Butterfinger, but that's it. Next topic. I've got a great idea, everyone. A wonderful idea, and I dare say it's even a splendid idea. Okay, so we've discussed big laundry on here before, and how they've got their tentacles all over us by making us 73 different products to clean our clothes, and it's costing us so much money, and big laundry is just running the world. But I've got a different laundry issue to discuss. A laundry quandary, if you will. If you have a hamper or basket where you put your dirty clothes, how do you remove them to put them in the washer? You grab from the top, right? Which is what most people do. Well, here's the problem. The poor clothes at the bottom of the hamper run the risk of getting neglected and having a long time frame for when they get washed because you're adding new clothes on top of those every day. You see, most of us operate on the LIFO method with laundry. LIFO, of course, meaning last in, first out. Shout out to accounting. If you're not caught up on your laundry, you better hope your favorite outfit isn't on the bottom of the basket, because who knows when it's getting washed, since the top of that pile is changed or added to every day. So, like I said, I had a great idea. And here is what we need. Here's the idea. We need a laundry hamper that operates like a Pez dispenser. And at the bottom of the hamper, it spits out the clothes just like a Pez dispenser. Or maybe, if it helps you picture it in your mind, similar to a vending machine that spits out a drink at the bottom that you can pick up. This way, clothes are washed in the correct order that they were worn, so all laundry has the same wash cycle. I'll let the design people work out the kinks of the idea, but once this goes big, all I ask for is 2%. Laundry hamper Pez dispensers. You heard it here first. While we're on a roll here, and we're doing all of this in just live, this is a live episode that is brought to you on a recording, no stopping and editing. So while we're on a roll here, I'm going to let you know about our sponsor for this epic season finale episode. Today's show is brought to you by Efficient Studying. When I was in college, one of my greatest fears was studying too hard for a test. There was no worse feeling than sitting down for an exam, only to realize that I knew the material too well, and every answer came too quickly and easily to me. Now, I want to make sure that you hear me correctly. I'm not an advocate for not studying at all. After all, this sponsor is Efficient Studying. You see, I never wanted to go into a test having not studied at all and have no clue. That's a miserable feeling. But see, the sweet spot is studying just enough that you have to sweat a little bit as you're answering the questions, but you still know enough to make intelligent guesses on the ones that you don't know. But if I wasn't a little uncomfortable taking the test and knew the answers too well, all that did was make me realize that I did not make efficient use of my time and could have been more social the night and week before. That's why efficient studying is the best. Efficient studying, where having no recall and knowing it all are equally bad. Put that on a t-shirt. And disclaimer, I will say, follow this sponsor at your own risk. Did you think that we were done with topics? We aren't. Does it ever annoy you that you can't rewind the radio? Maybe it's because I listen to podcasts in my car quite often and get used to being able to rewind it if I didn't catch something or thought I missed something. But now I've caught myself reaching out to the controls on my radio to rewind it when I didn't think that I caught something or wanted to hear something again. Who do we have to write a letter to get this change in motion? We can rewind live TV and can't rewind the radio? Is radio more complicated than television? What am I missing? Time to fix it, engineers. Again, I'm an idea guy. I've given you the idea. It's up to you to make millions off of it, and just like the laundry hamper Pez dispenser, all I ask for is a 2% cut. Here's a question for you. Is it weird to prefer watching TV with the captions on? At some point in the past year, I started using them, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that it has been a game changer. I always understand what's said, and somehow, I don't really know why, because it used to bother me, but somehow it doesn't get annoying by being on the screen all the time. And like I said, in fairness, I'm pretty sure if I had a podcast 2 years ago and closed captioning was brought up, I would have ranted about how terrible it was and said it was annoying, gets in the way, and which should never be used unless you absolutely need it. But I consider myself a man that is willing to pay attention to the world around me and I can't think of the phrase right now, and this is the problem with a live show, is that I run out of words. I like to think that I am an objective person that will take all the facts presented to me and come to a conclusion, and I can have my mind changed. So that's what I was looking for. And because of that, I now think that the experience of watching with the captions on is better. Not to mention, everyone told us that TV is rotting our brains, and we need to be reading books instead, telling us that we were getting dumber every day by watching TV instead of reading. Well, with the captions on, who's laughing now? And speaking of TV, I have a pet peeve with movies and TV shows that I need to get off my chest. I'm going to preface this by saying that I have never studied or learned anything about film production, and have zero idea the training and thought that goes into what happens in a movie or show. So I want to make sure that's clear. And now that I've gotten that disclaimer out of the way, I'm going to offer my opinion anyways. There is a trick that shows and movies do that drives me up the wall. And I'm here to tell the showbiz industry, Hollywood, New York, Atlanta, wherever you make movies, I'm here to tell the industry it's time to find a new trick. And you may have not ever thought about this, but once I say it, I have no doubt that you'll agree with me. I am sick and tired of movies and TV shows using dreams/nightmares as a way to insert something to grab our attention. How often have you watched a show or movie and you experience this whole something shocking is happening and I don't believe this scenario, only to have the character then wake up to show that it was all a dream, meaning that the last 30 seconds was just a complete waste of time? Listen up, directors. This is weak. Just luring us all in for something that doesn't even contribute to the plot. You're just trying to mess with us, and I've had enough. Write better, so you don't have to pull this trick out of filling time with a fake scenario to get us all excited and riled up, only to end it all as made up. Movies and shows are already make-believe, so don't give us make-believe within the make-believe. That's too much. I know everyone else is thinking this, but I wanted to be the voice of reason for society to let everyone know how we feel. How about that for a season finale? A live show. Just to peel back the curtain a little bit, for most of these shows, I cannot get through it without messing up numerous times, and I have to restate what I am, delete some audio and re-say it. And you're probably asking yourself, well, why don't they sound better if you're doing it? But that's probably a fair criticism, but regardless, it's hard to get through a show with one take. But that is what we have done today, because we were here to give random. I think I had 7 topics that we went through there along with the sponsor. What a show. I want to say and be honest here that it's entirely possible that something I talked about this episode I've already mentioned in a previous episode and I just forgot. Probably the Google one that I mentioned. I feel like I bring that up a lot. So it's possible that I've mentioned some of these before. And I would apologize for that. And maybe I just did. I can't remember. But I take it back if I did, because there is nothing more useless than repeating an old thought. So I do not apologize for repeating anything. But still, I will say that I do strive to bring fresh thoughts. So hopefully this was all new. Truthfully, I think this may have been my favorite episode, because as I said, it was just a non-stop thrill ride from beginning to end. No stops, no interruptions, no breaks for me to figure out how to adjust all the audio stuff because I have no idea what I'm doing. But this episode was just some good old-fashioned rambling. If this is the first episode you've listened to, then I encourage you, go listen to the other 9 episodes of Season 1. If you've listened to every episode already, then listen to them again if you want to. Or I encourage you to tell everyone you know to listen to this podcast. You can tell them to subscribe to it as well if you want to, but I'll leave that decision up to you. Kind of gets annoying when you listen to podcasts or watch videos and people just tell you to subscribe to their channel all the time. So here is me not telling you to tell people to subscribe to my channel. And truth be told, I don't even know how to tell how many subscribers that we actually have, so I'll never know if you subscribe anyways. This season has been awesome to record. If you have noticed any problems with the audio, where it didn't sound clean, or it had white noise, or other background sounds like a dog walking around shaking his collar, then I pin all of that blame on my producers. If you didn't think the content was very good, then I pin all that blame on my writers. And if you thought that the schedule of releasing the episodes wasn't great and timely, then I pin all the blame for that on my project manager. Basically, if you had any problems or concerns, none of it is my fault and it is all of their faults. we can leave out that tiny little detail that I am all those people. You can email the show at uselessthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. Again, uselessthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. If you have any feedback or suggestions, you can send all of your nice comments and your compliments for the show there. And if you have any angry comments, then just add an extra character to the beginning or end or middle of that email address, and that way I will never actually receive the angry comment. I normally end episodes with a piece of advice, but I've started to realize that may be a bit pretentious or presumptuous or prideful or any word like that. It may just be a bit of all those things for me to think that I'm smart enough or wise enough to offer consistently good advice, since I have a lot to learn myself. So this time, instead of advice, I'll end with a couple of quotes that I really like. The first quote is from Stephen Covey, Covey. And that quote is, "We judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their behavior." And the second quote, and one that I may like even better, is from C.S. Lewis. "In our own case, we accept excuses too easily. In other people's, we do not accept them easily enough." Thanks for listening to Season 1 of Useless Thoughts and humoring me along this journey as I work to start this project that I had a blast doing. Stay tuned for Season 2 when that comes out, because we're not done yet. Like we always say, remember to show kindness to everyone, and let's make the world a better place.